Document collection is the first instance where you have continuing contact with the client. Usually you are either tapping into their systems through a vendor to collect information, or you are on site at their offices talking to their employees and collecting information from them.
Yeah, that's a great point. And if I'm the client, the idea of having a bunch of lawyers crawling, I mean, I understand it because I'm a lawyer, right? But having it crawl through the business people, yeah, and then you come back and complain to me, right? So if I'm the client, how do I know if my outside firm is really prepared to come in, do collection with as minimal disruption as possible, and hopefully not have to come back and do it again?
Okay, that's a great point, because there are ways that you can set it up in advance, and the key is really taking time before you even enter the premises. You do not want to come on site without a very thorough preparation. So what you would do is you would sit down with your contact at the client, and you would identify the individuals who need to be seen and talked to. You would create an interview list, and if possible, you would try to schedule actual interviews in advance so that people know when they need to meet with you. In order to make the meeting as effective and efficient as it can be, you should prepare an interview form. Now, the interview form should be as standardized as possible so that you're asking all of the custodians the same questions to the extent that they're applicable. Obviously, if someone's a marketing person, you're not going to ask them questions that have to do with the engineering, but there will be a number of questions that will be asked to every single individual.
Also procedures, right? I mean, will people know what to do when they get there?
Procedures should also be outlined in advance. There should be a procedure for the actual collection. When the interview is completed, you should sit down with the custodian and ask them, where do you store the information? How do you store the information? Can we collect it now? And that will vary depending on whether it's electronic or hard copy. It's also the only real opportunity to ask them, do you have any material that was work product, that was created at the instruction of an attorney, or that was created in anticipation of a litigation? Those are documents that you'll want to flag as potentially work products, so that down the line, when there aren't any key identifiers on the document that would make a reviewer believe that they could be subject to work product, you would be able to mark them in advance.
That sounds like a lot of materials. If I'm the client and I say, okay, send me those materials because I want to make sure you're prepared, I'm going to be looking at a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
If it's all new to me, that may not be so helpful. But you mentioned with the interview forms that you can have sort of a standard form and adapt it.
Yes.
So I guess I would recognize the employee form. I could look at it and say, okay, it looks like ones we've used in other cases, so I'm confident. What about the other materials?
You would get about 3 or 4 materials. You would get the interview form. The interview form is the set of questions that you would ask. That was probably the most lengthy. That would be a form document. Right. So you could look through that. You would also receive the collection procedure, which is a one-page bullet point procedure that the attorneys on the ground would follow. You would receive a scanning guideline that would be used by the vendor to capture the custodian's materials. And you would receive a list of the individuals with whom the attorneys are meeting and the times that we're scheduled to meet. This is a great opportunity for outside counsel and in-house counsel to sit down and collectively analyze whether or not the right questions are being asked, the right people are being spoken to, and whether we're covering everything that we need to cover so that we don't have to come back again.
Right, and also I think somewhere in there you'd have materials for the reviewers so that they understand what the document requests are. And there, or you give them the document request, but I remember collecting documents, and it was very difficult. You're in somebody's office, you don't want to spend any more time than necessary, but you've got this, this sort of stack of document requests, and they're impossible to understand. I mean, they're always badly written, they're redundant, and you know, it really slows you down. I mean, is there something you can do about that?
There is. There's a great mechanism that you can use. It's called a document request summary. And it's really just a one-page, well, depending on how many requests there are. Sure. It could be a couple of pages, but it's a bullet point guide to what's been asked. And, you know, taking away all the nuances and carve-outs that are usually embedded in all of the document requests, it's, you know, boil it down to what we need. And of course, you'll be overbroad because you don't want to have to come back.
Right.
And you'll sift through the materials once you get back. But again, outside counsel would receive that. We're looking for HR files for these 3 individuals. We're looking for lab reports on these scientific experiments.
Right.
And it would be a really straightforward guide so that there's no questions on the reviewer's part, on inside counsel's part, or even on the business people's part as to what is being taken from their offices.